Hey there and welcome back to Tactical Breach Wizards. My name is Pete and today we complete episode 4 of this walkthrough on hard difficulty with health cut in half, and we are still very much on our quest for 100% full completion. Last time we left off after freeing and recruiting Mob Dr. Dessa Banks, who turned out to be a necromedic capable of bringing people back from the dead. What we don't know yet is her role in the plans of our adversary Liv Kennedy, but we might learn more about that today. Before we head out though, let's grab Dessa's first perk, and we are going with the intercept upgrade for Death's Door. This makes it so that the ability is triggered even if an enemy is only pushed onto the tile in front of the door, and once again, considering that this ability can instantly take an enemy out of the fight, I think making it more versatile should be our first priority here. Now, with that perk selection made, we can also already equip our second confidence outfit with Jen, who has collected enough points to now make the switch to Jungle Tracker. So let's get that equipped and then learn a bit more about why Liv Kennedy took Dessa in the first place. Banks, if you're ready to talk about it, did you ever learn why they took you? Liv wanted me to kill her. I'm sorry? 3 times since we reached Laboli. She'd disappear for a few hours, come back sweating and shaking, and order me to kill and dress her. Okay, that is not what I was expecting. She seemed sick. Elevated pulse, sweating, dilated pupils, dilated nostrils, tremors, but I'm a surgeon, diagnosis isn't my field. Okay, that's not what we had. And after you rewound her? Calm, vital, picture of health. And she didn't bitch about the whole thing like some people. So, is she trying to stave off some disease that she can't cure? Then why only 3 times? It wouldn't need to be every hour to keep her stable. Damn, this is tantalizing. I don't like unanswered questions. Really? I live for them. I know what poisoned you if it helps. Oh, despite what I just said, yes, please. It's a slow-acting poison the Druid Mafia use. Thistle Kiss. You had needle-thin puncture marks before I rezzed you, and Liv just hired a Druid hitman. Oh shit. Okay, I have to say, that's pretty smart. You don't have to say that, it's optional to say that. How do you kill the guy who sees everything coming? Don't let him know he's been hit until it's too late. Whose side are you even on? Yours, of course, but I'm freelance, so if she has a paid position, well, you'll have to be fast. My contact says that Liv's briefing her team tonight before they ship out. If we go in quick and quiet, we might learn their next move before they make it. Banks, we're square, but if you're up for this, we could certainly use your skills. Oh, I'm coming. After what they did to me, the next time I shoot Liv Kennedy in the head, she's staying in the f***ing ground. Well, this is a reconnaissance mission, so we might need to re-clarify engagement objectives en route. But let's go. Alright, suppression auras cast, no alarms in this room. If we take this room clean, they won't hear us coming. Wanna show us what Ghost Skull Gary can do? Ultimately, that'll be Gary's decision, but I'll set him up for success. Alrighty then, there we go, first level of today's first mission. As you can see, the levels are getting slightly larger and more complex as we make progress here. This one already starts us off with 6 enemies, 5 trackers and a heavy gunner, and for the first time we now control all 3 of our wizard heroes. That also means that we now have 3 confidence goals that we need to keep in mind, in particular the one for Banks, who wants us to hit 3 enemies with a single spectral skull. Thanks to Ghost Skull Gary, she now has access to this ability, and it can be pretty powerful if used correctly. Yes, it only deals 2 points of damage, but in theory it can do so against an unlimited number of enemies. That all depends a lot on positioning, both ours and the enemies. Now, what we also have in the back of the room are these stun barrels here. If they are damaged, they stun enemies adjacent to them, which especially in the heavy gunner's case might be of some use. So then, let's get to it. We'll breach first with Jen, move her into the room, and then get rid of this tracker over by the window here. An easy static blast will accomplish that, also giving Jen a bonus move, and it now opens the path for Zan to move in and lay down a predictive bolt, something you cannot do if an enemy already occupies the lane you want to fire down. At this point then, we take note of the air canister placed suspiciously close to the tracker down here, and then we move in with Banks, grab the intel and prepare for Ghost Skull Gary. To complete her confidence goal, we need to hit 3 enemies with a single cast of this, and this is how it works. It's a straight line aim that bounces off of a wall once. Now, I'll say this, getting the aim right for this particular trio of targets here is very finicky. I think there's just a few pixels that you need to very accurately target to hit all 3 of them. Luckily, you can always rewind until you get it right, and eventually it did also work out for me. So that's Banks' confidence goal completed, and Zan also gains a point of mana from his predictive bolt, which brings us then to Jen, who can finish off the 2 trackers in the corner here with a Gale Grenade. This, by the way, was unique ability number 4 on this turn, so we need 1 more for Zan's confidence goal, and well, let's have him supply that. A simple 3-bolt burst to shoot the stun barrel here will suffice. That takes care of the heavy gunner for 1 turn, leaving only the tracker active. And against that one, we can simply take cover with everyone to stay safe and end our turn. So then, it's turn 2, Jen's confidence goal demands that we finish it on this one, and considering what we have left, that shouldn't be too difficult. First of all, Zan will move up and hack the laptop to complete one of our primary objectives, and then Dessa can cast a Death's Door right behind the heavy gunner. Now, even though we have grabbed the range extension upgrade, this will not instantly take them out of the fight. This ability always needs to be used in conjunction with something that can push an enemy backwards. Speaking of using things in conjunction, after throwing a sedative cocktail at the tracker here, they are an easy kill for Zan, and that leaves only the heavy gunner for Jen. And to get her into the perfect position, we can move her over to the window here and use Broom Breach, which puts her in just the right spot to blast the heavy gunner into the void. And there we go, level complete, as well as all confidence goals. I'll have to admit though, this took me a little while to figure out. With 3 wizards in the party, things are certainly getting more complicated. What's next? Officers. They are the only people here who won't shoot us on sight, but only because it's policy to sound the alarm first. Tonight, that's worse. Any alarm goes straight to Liv, they evac early and we lose their trail. If you think that's worse, you haven't seen the inside of a gunshot wound. Okay, sure, for us personally, life will go on, but we're trying to stop a war here. Get into the headspace, please. And indeed, time to meet a new enemy, the reactor officer. With 3 hit points and 1 point of armor, these guys are somewhat sturdy. Most importantly though, they are programmed to do one thing and one thing only, and that is to sound the alarm. In our case, that is the siren at the back of the room here, and obviously we need to prevent them getting there. In addition, Banks once again wants us to hit 3 enemies with a single spectral skull, and Jen wants to finish this thing in just 1 turn, so we best get to it. Now, as soon as we reveal ourselves, you can see the officers' pathways appear on the floor. Those indicate just how far they can move towards the alarm on their turn. Now, ideally, they don't get a turn, so let's try to make that happen. A Gale Grenade pushes this guy backwards 1 tile. Then we can breach with Dessa and put her in this exact spot right here, grab the intel and line up Spectral Skulls so that it once again hits all 3 enemies. Now, as you can see, thanks to the officer's armor, it only deals 1 point of damage per target, not quite as effective as just pushing people out of windows. And that brings us to Zan, who in this level will actually do the heavy lifting. After grabbing the intel, he can now time boost Banks to give her an extra action, an action that we'll use to throw a sedative cocktail at the officer in the back. And with them now more vulnerable to knockback damage, a 3-bolt burst will be enough. That leaves us with 1 last officer, but like Zan said earlier, they will not attack us, and we know exactly where they're going. And there we are. Once again, the 4C phase still counts as part of the first turn, and so we complete this one, including all confidence goals without much trouble. Alright, we're here. If we can clear this room with no alarms, then I can foresight into the briefing room and catch everything. Is it an easy one? I wouldn't want to go on record saying that, no. Might be time for some trauma transference. I'm almost afraid to ask, but I'm not. What is it? Let me move trauma around. I cast it on you, and then I choose who takes the damage next time you get hit. feel like there was something in the Hippocratic Oath about that. I shot you in the head to save your life yesterday. Hippocrates needs to get on my level. Right, here we go then. This certainly looks a bit nastier than the 2 levels prior. We've got 3 reinforcement doors, 2 officers, 2 heavy gunners, and a turret. And of course, we also once again have confidence goals to complete, and this time around Jen wants to finish this in 2 turns. Banks also wants us to transfer 4 damage, and that's where her new transference ability comes into play. Just like Death's Door, we can only use this once per fight, and essentially what this does is it protects a target from taking damage and instead transfers the damage they would receive onto another target. This can be used pretty creatively. For this fight, we only have to keep in mind that the attack we protect from is worth at least 4 points of damage. Now, before we breach here, we switch around Jen and Zan, and then we open up the door with Dessa and rush straight for the intel over on the left side here. After grabbing said intel, we then throw a sedative cocktail at the officer standing a bit closer to the window here. You might already be able to see where this is going. Afterwards, we then breach with Zan and move him up as far into the middle of the room as possible. Yes, this seems risky, but trust me, it should all work out. Once again then, positioning is key, because from this spot he can now lay down a predictive bolt. As we take note of one officer standing close to it, the other one close to a window, and finally the heavy gunner next to an explosive, how about we take out all 3 of them with a single chain bolt from Jen? Lovely, 3 enemies down, leaving only 2, including the turret, and Zan has gained another point of mana. Let's use that to time boost Jen this time around, who can now static blast the heavy gunner here. That is mostly done to get the extra move though. Damage-wise, we obviously don't do a lot. However, that 1 point of damage is actually crucial, as you'll see in a moment. First of all though, let's use her movement to block off a reinforcement door, and we'll go for the one with an officer behind it. That's definitely the more troublesome enemy compared to the tracker coming out of the door on the right. Now at this point, we want to take note of the fact that in the 4C phase, the turret here will shoot Zan for 4 points of damage. So let's use the transference ability to transfer that damage from Zan to the heavy gunner. That is also why dealing that 1 point of damage to the heavy gunner beforehand is so important, otherwise they will survive this attack and shoot Banks afterwards. Instead, now it's enough for the kill, so we don't even need Zan's action. And there we go, confidence goal completed, Zan is still alive, and the area is clear of hostiles, at least for a brief moment. On turn 2 then, hopefully our last one, we have a tracker and an officer incoming. Neither one should give us too much trouble. The officer will take care of with a Death's Door. Before we activate it though, let's unlock an achievement with Dessa here, because not only can her spectral skull hit a theoretically unlimited number of targets, it can also hit the same target twice. And so, once from the front, once from the back, and the tracker is dead, as we unlock the Get Them Both Ways achievement. This now leaves Jen to seal reinforcement door number 2, and very importantly, we want to move first and shoot later, even though we can't shoot at all at the moment as Zan is blocking the path, but that's easily solved. He needs to move anyway to block the last door. With a clear line of sight, Jen can then finish off the officer and gain a bonus move, very important because we still need to disable the turret. And there we are, 2 turns and this one is done, zone 3 of 3 for this mission, which means it is now time to listen in to some super secret conversation. Alright, we are wheels up for Kalen at 0200 and I need everyone on the same page, the same sentence before we touch down. Put a foot wrong in Liboli, you piss me off. Put a foot wrong in Kalen, you'll never see daylight again. So, let's hear it. Ryan? Stay K9, head to the vaults, sniff around for mana stockpiles. Good. Bori? Straight to the safe house, lay low, don't set fire to anything important till I get the mana call. Don't set fire to anything till you get the call. Sure, of course, no major fires. Steve? I have a question about my role. Oh god. More of a comment, actually. I just think I have more to offer than my badge. I know you said it'll help our cover, but if I could be part of the vault team? I'm not your HR manager, Steve. I don't need you to feel valued. I use people who don't need nannying, and if that's not you, no, that's me, absolutely. You can throw your pretend cars around when we get to mid-deal. Till then, you are just a batch. I still don't get why we're going to Kalen. It's gonna be chaos with the riots. I'm not gonna draw you a diagram, that's a wrap. We're H-5, be at the helipad on the dot, or you're staying in Liboli. So, there we go, interesting conversation there, giving us a glimpse into Liv's next steps, and similar to ours, it looks like her team is steadily growing too. With another mission under our belt then, we have earned another level up for Zan and Jen, so we've got perk points to spend. And let's begin with Jen, whose upgrade will be rather straightforward. We are simply going to give her a second use of the Gale Grenade. With Zan, meanwhile, we will continue to upgrade his Predictive Bolt. I was, once again, briefly tempted by Conviction here, but instead we are going for the flat +1 damage increase, as this now allows him to instantly take out heavy gunners with a single shot. Very useful, considering that with their cover penetrating abilities they are pretty much guaranteed to do damage no matter what. So then, here's our overview map getting more and more convoluted, which is why we are now tasked with grouping together both ours and Liv's team. Our team, well, that's easy, that's Jen and Zan, and, since the events of the last episode, also Dessa Banks. As always, feel free to pause here if you want to read through all of the details. These dossiers do in fact get updated as the game's main plotline develops. Now, as we add Dessa to our team here, we also still see 2 curiously empty spots, potentially hinting at the fact that we are not done recruiting just yet. For Liv Kennedy's team, meanwhile, the lineup seems to be complete. We've got Liv, the less lethal pyromancer Bori Cash, Steve the traffic warlock, and this guy, the druid hitman Ryan, whose name I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. I was actually not familiar with the name before, especially not with its English pronunciation. Now, either way, at this point we have a few more connections still left to make. First things first, we now know who poisoned our wizards. It was none other than the aforementioned hitman Ryan. We also have a new entry here called Liv's Sickness, although whether or not it's actually a sickness we don't really know at this point. Either way, the connection from Liv to her sickness is an easy one to make, and we also know that Banks was able to cure it with a bit of necromedicine. Finally then, from snooping in on their conversation earlier, we also know that Liv's team is headed to Kalen. Before we make that connection, one quick look at the note for Noke's bar, and then we can confirm our last bit of intel. And indeed, while we know roughly where Liv's team is going, we do not have a precise location or a reason for why they're going, so that remains to be seen, as we have now in fact reached the end of today's episode. Yes, it's a slightly shorter one this week, but that's mostly because what comes next is one big chunk that in my opinion should be played all in one go, and I don't want to overload this episode. One thing we can do at the end here, however, is unlock Dessa's first outfit, who, interestingly enough, actually has a reduced cost for these, hinting at the fact that she might just be more naturally confident to begin with. Either way, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, then I would be very happy if you could leave a thumbs up. If you like what I'm doing and want to support me and my channel further, then you can of course go ahead and subscribe to stay up to date, grab some merch over on shop.petecomplete.com, or check out and maybe even pledge to the Pete Complete Patreon. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.